Jimmy Butler is not in New York. He was in New York. He went up for a coffee event, and he was a barista, and then he flew back, and then he was at a paddle event yesterday, and he's actually there today, and supposedly he's going to speak sometime this afternoon to the crowd. So we may have to break up this podcast very quickly and go to that if he says anything interesting. But Adele, I want to go through some of this stuff that's come out about Jimmy and just some reporting that I've done over the past 12 to 24 hours to kind of state where this is. The first thing is just a little bit more color here on the suspension. Of course, this is a 2-game suspension. This is his second suspension. He was suspended for 7 games, came back. I think played is the word I would use loosely in 3 games, and then was suspended again. And there was a report that came out, and this is a case where the Heat and his agent are on the same side. There was a report that came out, I guess, on the Road Trippin' podcast that Channing Frye, former NBA player, is on. Channing has a lot of friends in the league, including Kevin Love. But Channing came out and basically said that the Heat were waiting on the tarmac for 5 hours, and that Jimmy didn't tell them what he was doing. And I can just tell you that that is false. Ernie, his friend, came out and said it was false. Bernie Lee, his agent, came out and called it 1,000% false. I can tell you it's 1,000,000% false. And the Heat, it just didn't happen that way. Here's what happened. Jimmy let the Heat know that he had business obligations, as he often does. Okay. And he asked if it was okay to take a separate flight, or it was asked of the Heat if he could take a separate flight, and the Heat said no. They denied the request. They want him to be part of the team right now until he's done with the team. Now, we know he's taken some separate flights before. Some of those have been approved. Some have not been approved. And the ones they haven't been approved, to my knowledge, he has gotten on the plane, okay, with the Heat. In this case, he just never showed up. And that's where the suspension came. So this is not a case of wait. The Heat are not waiting 5 hours for anybody. Okay, I mean seriously. Like I'll tell a little inside story here. Spo is known for being kind of late to planes. I can tell you they don't leave without Spo, but this other stuff, like no, they're not going to wait for 5 hours. When you saw that report, before we get to where the Jimmy trade situation is, what did you make of the Heat sitting there for 5 hours? I guess asking the captain if it's okay to leave.
I just found it pretty hilarious that was the story that was trying to be spun, because if you know an organization that's run by Pat Riley, you have Eric Spoelstra, you have Mickey Arison, you have the no nonsense approach they take to basketball, and even LeBron James. I'm wearing the St. Vincent St. Mary jersey in honor of LeBron James, another superstar that ended up departing from the Miami Heat at some point. He didn't get that kind of leeway. He wasn't running 5 hours late in the planes waiting on the tarmac. So I just found it, funny and kind of, basically absurd that was even entertained by the large population of people.
Well, I think it's because at this point they think Jimmy's capable of anything. I think that's where we're at in this situation. But again, the Heat would have to oblige that and basically sit there and wait for him. They were not going to do that.